Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. My name is Trisha Barker, and I'm so excited to be here with the medium, Michael Christopher, today. And we're going to talk about mediumship and spiritual awareness and awakening and opening to these messages from ancestors and the divine. And I'm also going to remind you that my book is available for purchase. The pre-order link is below. I also want to support other people who are writing books because I do believe this is part of my calling. I work as a community college professor and work with writers, but I want to do this for people who are writing spiritual books. And there are several workshops that you might check out. The links for Michael Christopher's page are also below as well. So welcome, glad to have you here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I want to begin by asking you just a question about mediumship. I get a lot of people who ask me questions, and maybe they come from a Christian upbringing and they're kind of afraid of this experience, or they're secretly curious. And you sounded, when I read your webpage, like somewhat of a reluctant medium, like you didn't think this was going to be in your life plan and how your life would unfold. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
That couldn't be anything further from the truth. It was literally out of left field, hit me like a wall. And, the next thing I know, I'm talking to people that have passed. But the initial, wake up, I think, well, I know definitely without a doubt, was the passing of my sister. Back in 2015, she was murdered. And it was a pretty horrific, situation. She was attacked at her place of work, and passed 2 days after the incident. It went unsolved for quite a while, almost 5 months. But about 2 months into it, I found this group of psychics and mediums that worked on cases for unsolved murders. And it was somewhere during that time that I had a pretty profound experience. I had gotten up for work one morning, and so all by myself, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm standing at the counter, and all of a sudden I feel somebody standing behind me. I turned around and there was nobody there, but I still felt this presence. And all of a sudden my sister pops in, and I start to see her, in my mind. And she walks up behind me and wraps her arms around me and gives me a hug. Now, never had anything like this ever happen. So it was, all different things were going through my mind. But she stood there for probably about 15, 20 seconds before she pulled away. And again, it just left me just speechless. I didn't know what just happened. It just left me completely confused. At that point, I don't think I mentioned anything about that for almost 2 weeks, until I was talking to a friend of mine, another medium, that was helping me with this case. And she ended up validating that experience. So, all right, I knew I wasn't crazy.
Yeah. So it's really great that you opened up while you knew mediums, because they can help you in so many ways just validate what it is that you're experiencing, and
Right.
not brush it aside, because I think many people do have a contact. Usually it's in dreams, though, not so vivid as yours
Right.
was in
Right.
reality. And how did they help you make sense of what you're experiencing? Like,
Well, the first, just from that, validating that was a real experience. I can only imagine if I was left to just wonder what just happened. But luckily, a friend of mine, I can't remember exactly what I said to her. I didn't give her any details, but I said enough to her she validated. She told me exactly what happened, and I was like, that's all I needed to hear. Um, so luckily for her, I was able to get that from her. Um, yeah, I think I would have been completely lost if that wouldn't have happened.
yeah, and it sounds like you probably needed it, because murder is shocking, and it's traumatic, and
Yes.
I think those contact moments provide healing too. Did you feel some healing and closure that you didn't get in life from that moment?
I did. And the other thing I have to add too, it's a unique situation because my sister was quite a bit younger than me, and she was born to my dad's second marriage. So this is the twist, kind of the weird part about it. We never met in life.
Huh.
This is a strange situation because of my military. I went into military at 19. She was very, a lot younger than I was. I think she was 6 at the time. So going back and forth, home during leave and stuff like that over the 20 years I was in, it just never, I was never able to meet her. So that's another added thing, to this whole situation. What left me with guilt, just knowing that I'd never get a chance to meet her. So all those things came into play also with this.
And did she stay with you? Did she keep getting to know you and talking to you? And
That's the I think the most amazing thing about what's happening now is yes. I mean, from that moment that happened, she's been with me ever since. She has been, I mean, not only a guide but a teacher. I mean, she keeps me in check. I mean, like reality checks. I'll leave it at that. So it's been a unique experience in the way that, even though I didn't get to know her during life, it's kind of like we're building a relationship now from where she's at. It's
yeah.
yeah, very unique.
And and I have to be curious, but is your dad open to messages from her and, your extended family?
Well, that's the thing. I don't really talk to my father, so I don't know if he does know I do this. I'm sure he's probably caught wind of it, but I have a brother that's still living and 2 other sisters. So they at first it was kind of like what, but now it's like I don't know. It's like they call me if they just want to connect. I'm like the telephone, I guess.
How
So I
funny.
mean, they're pretty open to it.
Interesting, interesting. It amazes me who's open and who's not. So when we go through these changes, sometimes immediate family members are not, and then we're just connecting with this world of people who do believe, though, and that's why these videos, and that's why the world at large is open. But are you surprised sometimes by military connections or other people who do contact you and are somewhat open?
Oh yeah. And the thing is too, my take on this, I don't know, maybe it's my age now, but I'm the type person that I don't really, I'm not really influenced by what other people think. I kind of just, if I just do what I do and I don't really let that affect me in any way. But it's interesting because I did go through a kidney transplant back in 2010, and my donor is actually a friend of mine that I was in the military with.
Wow.
So that opens up a whole new chapter
Yeah.
in this.
So your sister's death was before that kidney transplant, or was that?
That was actually after.
Okay.
After.
So was that the beginning? The kidney transplant, was that the beginning of thinking about mortality? And did you research
Oh
any
yes.
death experiences, or did you start like kind of questioning things at that point?
Oh yes. Because it was actually about 10 years into my Air Force career when I was diagnosed with the kidney disease. And I remember at that moment, it just stopped me in my tracks because it came out of nowhere, literally. I mean, we go through physicals every year in the Air Force, but they don't check for this certain problem. And it was actually, I was going to get my pilot's license. So I went to a separate physical off base where they found an issue with my kidneys. And, long story there, but it was actually diagnosed. And, I'm just left, well, what does that mean? And all the doctors can tell me is, well, you have this type disease and it's progressive. We caught it very late. There was no symptoms that I was feeling up to that point, but all they could say was, we're just going to monitor it. And that's all we can do is try to slow down the progression. So that's what I was left with. So yes, at that point, it's like, how do you deal with this? And I remember just sitting there and actually thinking to myself, I can handle this one or two ways. I can let this just be on my mind and just crush me thinking about this, or I have the choice to just say, you know what, it is what it is. I'm going to do my best to just live every day, and it's not here now. And I think at that moment, it taught me to live in the present. I can't be bothered with what's going to happen 5 minutes from now or 10 years from now. I have to stay now because that could literally drive you nuts. It's like a time bomb. You don't know when it's going to go off. So how do you handle that? So,
Right, right. It is a big shift. So, do you think that that maybe opened you to the possibility of mediumship because you begin thinking about your mortality? And I think those
oh, it
moments do
did.
kind of wake us up.
It did. It did. And to add on, watching John Edward and seeing that in all the books that I've read about the afterlife and just mediums and psychics and near death experiences, it actually gave me comfort, knowing that, okay, I know there's more. I know there's more, beyond this. Add in that, I had one of my brothers at that time passed in 97 from cystic fibrosis, which was, a whole nother thing. But so all these experiences, it really made me think, just reflect on that. All right, I know there's more after this. I knew there was more after if things go wrong. So in a way, long story short, it did. It gave me great comfort researching those.
I have a question, which is, I hope it doesn't sound like it's from left field, but maybe you can weigh in on it. My father, when he was passing, he telepathically sent me this message, see you soon. And I was like, not that soon. Like I
Not
want to
that
be here
soon.
a while. And when I talk with people on the other side, they often tell people like, oh, I'll see you soon, millisecond, or, just in a short amount of time, or no big deal. Or, like they say things that are telling people that time is short and that they'll see them soon. But I don't think it means we're not going to live 20 years or 40 years still here. What do you make of that? Have you heard that kind of talk?
Um, I'm trying to think back. I know, there's been times where it's odd because my first brother that passed, I remember I would sit and have these imaginary conversations, which I thought at the time were imaginary. And I do remember him saying like it's, things like it's not your time. And again, I wasn't a medium at that point. So it was kind of like I'd snap out of it and go, whoa, I was just talking to Jason. And it was just like, whoa. But I do remember some of those instances where it's like, no, you know, not yet, or having
Right.
that feeling. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, I think for them, time is kind of relative, though. So they see that we will be reunited with them, and
oh
I
yeah.
think that comes across in some readings that they're looking. They know that at one point we will be reunited, and to them, time is simply different over there.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I've noticed too with my readings, and I just it kind of just hit me here recently. A lot of times with my readings, a lot of the information I get is actual, how do I put this? It's more of they give a ton of just instances instances and evidence like they're watching, they're around. It's I'm just trying to think. I just did a reading the other night and it was actually a pet came through for an owner. And the dog, I'll just shorten this up, but the dog kept showing me a milk bone. And I was like, why he keeps showing me this milk bone? The owner reaches into her pocket and takes out a milk bone. She goes, I brought this to help bring him through. So it's stuff like that, the evidence that they show me, that's a lot of what comes through in my readings. Um,
No, I totally get that. And I'm so glad when people do that too. Like I was giving a reading to a woman and I didn't think it was particularly going well because the mom kept showing me shoes, shoes, shoes. And all I was seeing were her shoes. And then she realized, she's like, oh, I put my mom's shoes on the bed to show you that, or to ask her to come in into the reading. And I was like, why am I getting only shoes?
yep, and so it's stuff like that. But or just simply telling people who are maybe going through a medical condition themselves. And this was another one just the other, maybe last week, that they were showing like no vacancy. They put up a no vacancy sign for the sitter. Like, it's not your time, no vacancy. I was like, whoa, and
Nice.
she completely understood that. Um, but yes, I've had them, similar to what you're saying about, see you soon. But I think it's more of a comforting thing. Like, we are going to get to see each other again. When I left, that's not the end. There's more. We will see each other. And I think that message is prominent and maybe not in words that come through with the reading, but I think it's implied that, hey, we will see each other again.
Yes, that we will be reunited and that love goes on. Have you given any readings to parents who have lost kids? Because I know that
Yes,
this is, for me, that's how I kind of got into doing more of this, because I saw that wound and it always hurts my heart so deeply because I know that that's one of the greatest wounds.
it is. And I have. Um, and it's such a delicate area too, because I try to tell people ahead of time, it's no matter what I tell you during this reading, you know, it's not going to bring your child back. You know, you still have to go through that mourning. You still have to grieve. You still have to learn to live every day with that loss. It's, you know, it may get a little easier day by day, but it's always going to be there. So nothing I'm going to tell you is going to make that go away. The most I can offer you is to let you know by them telling or giving you, you know, information that they're still with you. You know, so hopefully that provides some comfort. And I mean, I'm just shocked at some of the stuff that they come through with, and they don't really want to focus on that incident, that why I'm no longer here. They want them to fully understand that I'm still with you and I want you to live every day to the most. You know, I want you to be happy. I mean, that seems like a constant theme is don't drown in the sorrow that I'm not with you physically. I'm still with you, but
Yeah. It's like that love goes on. It's like it's behind a wall that we can't
yes,
see, but it's coming through energetically. That love continues to seep in, and I love that connection. I've been humbled so many times in readings by feeling that love, how enormous it is. You know, like there are some connections between family members, you know, a parent who is giving that love to a kid or a child who is giving that love to their parent. It humbles me. It's a beautiful experience. I'm sure you felt some of that too.
oh my God, I don't think there's anything, you know, no greater humbling experience than doing this work. I mean, there are times when I sit back and I'll just be sitting in this office and I'll just stare at the wall and just really feel into it and really just ask myself, do you realize what you do, what you do for people? You know, and I catch myself thinking, is this real? You know, how, why me? You know, why was I chosen to do this? You know, out of nowhere. But it is. I mean, and I hope I never lose that feeling of just what this is that we do for people, um, because it is. It's just it almost leaves me. It does leave me speechless most of the time when you think of the impact that we have on people. It's just, you know, yeah. And you know, I often I have to go back to, you know, when I actually went through kidney failure and was on dialysis waiting for the kidney. Again, you go through that moment of, even though I knew it was coming for 10 years, now it's right in my face. How do I deal with it? And it was like starting all over. It was like, wow, this is real. I have to start dialysis. Um, so again, going back and reflecting, and I remember the day that I was told my kidneys were failing. You have to start. I remember telling my wife that day, I said, I don't want to live. I said, I don't want to go through this. I said, I was actually, it was an easier decision to let nature take its course rather than wonder and worry and go through the fear of, am I going to get a kidney? I'm living on a machine. Um, and it was literally, and she understood. I mean, as painful as it was, but it was 2 days later. And I know this was my brother coming through. It was like a complete turnaround. It was like, no, you need to do this. You need to try.
So
So I
your
said,
brother came through in that
again,
moment.
this was before I knew the woo woo stuff was going on with me. So it was just that strong feeling that I knew it was him, but it was a feeling of, you know, you got to do this. So I said, okay. I told my wife, it was literally 2 days later. It's like, I'll start dialysis. I'll give this a year. If I don't have a kidney by then, I can't live on a machine. And the reason I bring this up again is just why I remember saying, it's like, if I'm supposed to be here for whatever reason still, help me get a kidney. I don't know who I was talking to. I just put it out there. And my birth brother actually was the first donor, stepped up to be the donor. It was all good. 2 weeks before the surgery, he had a staph infection, was turned MRSA, and they called off the surgery. So I was 2 weeks away from getting the kidney, and bam, there we go again. But then my buddy from the Air Force stepped forward, who was across the country. Long story short, stepped in maybe 2 weeks after that, after being told that the surgery was off. So again, I know I'm here for a reason, and here we are.
Yeah, and I think that God or the divine must work through so many different people to reach a variety of people because, your experiences will draw people to you because they resonate with you in some ways. And I
Right.
think that it's just really interesting. Like the people who have called me, I generally feel this like oneness with them, like, oh, wow, I understand their journey because maybe, the videos I've put out or there's a lot of information about me. So there's this resonance.
Right.
And I think we're called from many different walks of life to help people in this way.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I've been out there kind of in the public eye for almost, I'll say, 2 years, 3 years. And to me, it's just me going blah, 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 telling my story. But I'm surprised how many people just tell me, like, you need to write a book about this. You have no idea how this resonates. Not only the mediumship part, but what I've been through with, losing two brothers, a sister, the kidney transplant. It just, there's certain parts of that just resonate with people. To me, it's just my experience. It's not that big a deal. But other
Right.
people, like, you have no idea by you just talking and telling your story, how that affects people in so many different ways.
Well, yeah, to experience great loss, that is a lot of times why people search out mediums because they've had a lot of loss in their life, and so that you've had those major losses and that you communicate with them is comforting to many people, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and it's fascinating that you didn't know your sister before that moment, and you said that you consider her a guide, like since she's one of the first, she's
Oh
one
my
who stays
goodness.
with you.
I can, oh my God, I could talk forever about this because not only, and I have to go back to when I first started with the mediumship, I was pointed in the direction of a teacher because someone said, you need to just take this class and understand what's going on. So, I found this other person again being pushed in the right direction. And I took like just a basic, beginning, I think it was beginning intuition class to teach you about what the clairs meant and all that. I had an idea what they were, but didn't fully understand. Again, but that was the turning moment when I started learning this is what clairaudience means. And to me, I always thought it was everybody saw like spirit as a normal person. I didn't understand it. Most of us see it internally. Everything's internally. Once I understood that one little piece of the puzzle, things just opened up. It was like, oh my God. I started thinking about things that have happened throughout my life. I'm like, wow. Again, so that's now I know I've had this my whole life. I just didn't realize it.
Oh, so did
Um,
you have ghost experiences or did you have,
a
other
lot of it,
paranormal?
not paranormal, but intuition.
Oh,
Knowing like who was on the phone before they called, knowing like something was going to happen. Um, Finishing people's words, knowing what they were thinking. It was just, I started thinking back to stuff like that. But then going into my military career, I can look back now and go, because I remember like always being like a step ahead, but never understood it, never under really fully understood why. Like I would just have this flash, hey, you better get this ready for tomorrow because so and so is going to be asking for it. And heck, there it is. Um,
yeah, that's interesting. So there was no spiritual experience that brought that on. You're just kind of born with that knowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Oh,
wasn't until my sister came around, and that's kind of where I was going with this point with her, was once I took this class, it opened up. But the thing is, too, I've gotten to be really good friends with my first teacher. I mean, and I've actually taught classes with her since. But my sister is actually helping other people learn because she has helped with other students. I mean, it's just an amazing experience that I've had with her, and other people too are getting experience and learn from Jackie. So it's just
Oh,
it.
that's so cool. And I know exactly what you mean because if I talk to other mediums, they can always pick up on my dad, who's really strong. And I have to laugh because he was such an extrovert and such a talker in life that I'm like, of course you're still talking in the spirit world.
Yep.
They do not change.
Oh no, I could give you examples of my brother too. You know, some people think when you pass, you all of a sudden you become this divine angel and this, you know, holier than thou. And my brother is the same person he was when he was here. Foul mouth, no sense of humor. Oh my God, the inappropriate times he comes through, and I shouldn't be laughing, and he makes me laugh for no reason, and people look at me like, "What are you doing?" You know? Yeah.
Oh, that is funny. And yeah, so does he show you though, like his changes in the afterlife though, like what he knows or what he learns, or does he open up some of that for you, or does he
You
just
know,
remain?
he really hasn't. He's the same. Everything he does when I experience him or when he comes through, I don't know. He just seems so still normal, if
That's
that
funny.
makes sense. And you know, I've even asked my sister, it's like, what do you do over there? You know, what do you experience now? You know, and the first thing she told me was she helps children when they cross, which was interesting, you know, and luckily, you know, I still have my sister who's still living. So I can, you know, ask her, you know, what was her personality like when she was here, and find out that, yeah, she didn't have children of her own, but she loved children. So it
Oh,
kind of makes sense that, you know, that's what she's doing there. I've asked her silly questions like, what do you do? Where do you live? Do you have, I know you don't need a place to live. And, but she said, she shows me like she lives in this like apartment community because, you know, people like to be together. So little things like that, but I haven't really delved too far into much beyond that.
interesting. I heard Nancy Rhines. I interviewed her recently. She's a near-death experiencer, and she said in a previous life she helped people cross, but she didn't think that she was an angel. She felt like she was just a guide that helped people
Yep.
assimilate into that environment. And so that's kind of interesting. That's what your sister is doing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
No, interesting stuff.
fascinating, fascinating. So I have another question for you, and that's really more about like the spiritual awakening part of this. Do you,
Sure.
when you started meeting with other mediums and opening to this, did it take some time to integrate all of this, or did you feel like it, like you said, it was like a light switch, so you just were different, like just immediately?
This is the most profound part of this because, and I joke about this, but I'm also serious at the same time. I literally have the attention span of a gnat. If I see a tiny penny or a squirrel, I'm done. There's my attention. So the reason I bring that up is um, integrating with all these other mediums. I've been so fortunate that to fall into this group of people that I've met and the people that I've met over the last just few years, like-minded people that I can share this and we share stuff with each other. But what I found was when I say light switch, it was literally like one day I'm just me, normal me. The next minute I'm literally talking to spirit and not have, I don't want to make this sound easy, but it was almost like effortless. And this sounds strange, I know, but it was literally like, here I am. I don't realize I can do this. Here I am channeling people. And when I say I started channeling from people, I started working with the friends and I would just channel stuff maybe from their past. But one of the things, it was a common remark from most of them is like, you channel like you've been doing this your whole life. And they're literally like, I've known people that have been doing this for 20 years that would probably like kill to be able to do what you're doing now. And I'm like, that didn't make sense. But the messages come through so clear, and it's not, I don't interpret symbols. I don't work in that way. I hear words, you know, sometimes full length sentences. I see, I feel. So from day one, it was literally like just instant message. It was so strange, and it's hard to even put in words. But I don't have to interpret. I don't sit there and go, "What are you trying to tell me?" I actually,
Hmm.
it's almost, it's still hard for me to even put in words how I experience channeling.
So it's more As if you're taken over by their spirit, or do you hear just audible words that you need to say? Is that more along the lines?
It's like a combination. It can be, it's almost like a download, if that makes sense. Sometimes I'll get hit with, I just know I need to say um, whatever they want me to get across to the person. I'm trying to think of a real quick example. Um, hey, your mother's telling me that you have a health problem that you're not paying attention to. You need to take, and basically, like if I was there, I'd be grabbing you by the ear and dragging you to the doctor. It just comes out like that. I just feel it. So it's them. The way I understand it, okay, and this I'm still learning. I don't think I'll ever stop. But the way I understand how it works is, our energy field and theirs kind of merges. So I can sense them. So they impress upon me what they want me to communicate. It's so hard to put in words.
No, no, I know what you mean. I call them my better readings are like that, but I got kind of scared one time because, someone just like really took over my body, in this
Oh,
sense. And I was
wow.
like, it was kind of overpowering because this was a younger spirit and, kind of missed things about life and really wanted to be in my body. And I was like, whoa, you know,
Wow.
and so that was and so I kind of keep them at bay a little bit, but I know that you can have a better reading if you really merge with that consciousness of that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And that's the way I've kind of done it without realizing the entire time, or at least I think, and that's, I, and I think I may have said this earlier, but I take such a simple approach to this, an uncomplicated approach to where I don't put a lot of thought into what or how it happens. I just let it happen, and it just is what it is.
That's
Um,
perfect. Actually, that's really perfect because that's the way it should be. That's when it's best, is when you're moving away your human consciousness and how
right.
we think about things and just letting that take over.
And I got to say this too, and I was thinking this, and I say this a lot because I remember John Edward had an interview one day, and the interviewer was asking, "How do you experience this? What's this like?" And I'll never forget this because I try to put in words how I do what I do or how mediums do what they do. And John simply said, he goes, "Think of a daydream." He goes, "Think of that state you're in when you're daydreaming. Your mind is relaxed and you're taken to wherever, I like to give the example of, think about a time when you're out camping. So you're in this daydream state. You can picture the outdoors. You can picture maybe the people that are around you. You can remember the conversations that happened, during that time. That's how I experience channeling. It's like that daydream state, but I know those aren't my memories. It's those people coming through to share them. So it's literally that, how it is for me. I'll see stuff that they want to share, hear words that they want me to speak. So it's kind of like I'm in that daydream state. And that's the odd thing too. I've been able to just instantly go into that daydream state for my whole life. I remember my report cards from second grade. Your son's a daydreamer, Now I'm like, well, now I know why, because I can instantly just, that meditative state, if you want to call it. So that's how I experience, and I wanted to get that out because one of my things is I want people to understand this isn't just for mediums. Everybody has this ability to connect with their family and friends. They do. I'm convinced of that. It's just most people don't realize how it happens. And I always say if John Edward would have said that when I was watching him on TV 20 years ago, I might have clicked back then to go, oh my God, that's what's happening to me.
Right,
I
right.
know that was probably a tangent, and I'm
No,
good.
no, no, no. It's a good tangent. I like it a lot. It is something that people need, I think. And I've known people years ago who maybe lost a spouse, like an older relative, and they've written a book, and they just thought they're remembering things from their spouse. But I think that perhaps they really were channeling moments and still continuing those conversations, and that it was more of a reality than they thought.
Yes, and you touched upon this at the beginning, the trust issue or trust aspect, and oh my God, 100% of this is trust. We always dismiss an experience as just, oh, it's just my imagination. To me, that's the worst word in our language is imagination or the connotation that comes with it. Most of this is your imagination. That's how a lot of that, it just frees your mind to accept this. I mean, half the stuff that comes through during channeling or a session, I could easily go, well, that doesn't make sense, and think into it. I've learned now to just let that go, and whatever comes through, no matter how crazy or off the wall it seems to me, sometimes that's the most profound thing that comes through for the sitter, because they're like, that one or two words or whatever, butterfly, it's like, oh my God, it's like they completely understand and fall apart because of what you just said. Where me, if my
Yes.
rational mind would have stepped in and rethought it or thought about it and tried to interpret and send it a different way, it wouldn't have had the same meaning as straight from spirit, whatever, however they put it, you know?
Yeah. And as a near-death experiencer, I know like being over in that other side that that intelligence is so different from the intelligence that we carry throughout this life and the way that we rationally look at this world. Like the very first moment I saw those angels, like they just hit me and I was like, they know so much more about this realm than I do. They're so intelligent. And then, I was getting telepathic information and experiencing things as the spirit in this multi-dimensional way. And I think when people are practicing mediumship, they're using that ability to connect in a multi-dimensional way that's hard to put into words, into
It
rational
is.
words about what you're doing.
It is. And I find the more that I relax and the more that I just put my mind out of the way, I mean, the easier the messages flow. And it's just an amazing experience. I mean, I'm open to pretty much everything too. And I've experienced things that, wow, one that sticks out. I don't meditate regularly. I'm starting to again, because at first I'm like, again, I come from a military background and air traffic control, so I'm kind of, really rational minded. Um, and I thought meditation and all that, that's all new age, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm starting to kind of understand the importance of it for other reasons. Um, but with that, I remember during a meditation, again, if my rational mind stepped in during this, I'd have been like, I remember I was just sitting here, I was meditating, and all of a sudden, I don't know if I heard it, but I was lifted to what someone said. I don't know who this voice was, to either the seventh or some dimensional level, and I was like, what? And all I seen with these beings of light, they were just these white, tall beings of light. I can't remember features, but I have the message written down somewhere because it was so profound. Basically, it was telling me like my kidney transplant. It's like these medications, they have a host of side effects and all this other stuff. I remember loud and clear them saying this medication that you're on will no longer hurt you or help you, meaning that it's kind of, they were making me feel like it's neutral. Yes, you have to take it because the doctors prescribe it. You can't let that go, but it's not going to hurt you.
Hmm.
So, but they were telling me other things, like it was almost like futuristic, like what I'm going to experience later on with this work. And there was other things too that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was just left with, oh my goodness, what just happened? You know?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And I think people who are very open, I always tell near-death experiencers or other people to meditate often because you never know when something like that is going to happen. I know exactly what you're talking about. Recently I was transported to what I felt like was a healing place. I don't know what to call it other than that, but there was someone who was working with me to heal some emotional wounds, to heal some stuff that was going on. But I knew that I was just getting healing. I was just transported somewhere where they were going to work on me. And I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Just along for the ride.
Yeah, I'm here. And
Yep.
so meditation does open that up. And funniest story, it's a side story, but I've meditated and merged with a hawk before and, like felt that experience of what it's like to be a hawk. And there was someone at a meditation center, and I forgot what book this is in, but he merged with a bird, but another person was already in that bird. And so he couldn't get in the bird. I was
I
like,
want my turn.
in Texas, all the birds are pretty much free. Like
Yeah.
people don't know. but but yeah,
No,
there's all kind of possibilities with meditation.
it is. I mean, and again, if you let your rational mind take over a lot of this stuff, you'll just dismiss it. And I still am skeptical about everything. I'm skeptical about my work, and that's why I rely on very substantial stuff to come through during readings. I don't start out with, oh, your father's saying that he loves you and he's proud of you. Because I have an agreement with them. It's like, look, once you help me identify who you are. After that, the floor is yours. But I'm not just going to give you, woo-woo stuff right at the beginning. I want you to tell me, who are you? And they do. It's weird, and I learned this from this class. This first class is like, identify who they are, you know, let them, I need that information first. That's all I tell them. It's like, I need to identify who you are. The sitter needs to know this is whoever, your dad or your brother. After that, I'm open to whatever you want to come through. But and when I first found out that you can actually have conversations back and forth, because I used to just sit and listen, and I know I'm on a tangent again, but I thought it was all one way. I would just have to listen. So if I got to a point where I don't understand what they're telling me, I would be like, wow. And I remember talking to my teacher, Mimi, about this. I'm like, well, I don't understand what they're telling me. She's like, well, just ask them. I was like, wait, you can ask questions? She's like, yeah. So once I got that part, I'm like, okay. And I did, and they answered. I was like, whoa.
That's great. That's great. So when you look back at this progression of your sister's death and what you went through before that, what do you think you have been prepared for? I mean, obviously to help people with grief and like the shock and trauma of that, and then physical fears and moments around their own mortality or someone close to them. Do you think that those moments were your greatest openings?
I do, because I can relate and empathize. I have empathy towards
Yes.
a person's, situation if they've been through health issues themselves. I've been through that. I've been through loss. Um, so I can relate on the human level with that, and then with the other stuff. Um, and I've been told this too, and I really feel this, that I bring people remark to me that they're like, you're so normal. And I'm still trying to understand what that means. But I guess because I take, like I mentioned, such a simple approach to this, that people have said they can relate to me because I'm not what they expect a medium to look like to be because of my background, maybe, I don't know. But I think I can just bring like, I hate to even use that word, but a normal approach to this work. Um, where I just talk to people in general terms about it, at everybody's level, everybody can understand what I'm trying to say, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. And I think back to, I had my near death experience in the early 90s, and I think we're kind of in the same generation,
Yep.
but but it was kind of weird back there in the 90s, like I had this vision of what a psychic or medium would be, and it was like, are they going to live on the side of the road in one of those like
Yes.
houses and have a sign out front, like,
Yeah.
or do I have to move to Sedona, or do I need to go to Peru? Like those were the only three things I could think of. I didn't think that you could just, be have a normal job and just use this to help people. But that's exactly what I did. I just started using it to help my students and wouldn't tell them I was using intuition or
Yep.
mediumship. And then I was like, over time, I was like, there's more and more people who've normalized this. And certainly I think we can just come forward. And I didn't, like you, I think maybe it's our generation, that Generation X, we're like, whatever, this is who I am,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like it or not.
Because, when I initially started this, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go vegan because I like meat. I still like to drink a beer. I'm sorry, but if that's what they want from me, they got the wrong guy. So I'm like, no, I do everything I did before. I have not changed one thing about who I am, what I do. This is a part of who I am. And that's what I think people need to know is you don't have to change who you are because all of a sudden this happened to you or you become aware of this ability. I I refuse to be someone or something I'm not. And Like I said, I'm the type person that, like me or, have nothing to do with me. I'm good either way. This is who I am.
Yeah, and you'll reach the people that you're meant to reach, and some unexpected ones too, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yep. And some people are really shocked when they get to know me that they're like, again, it's like, you're so normal. I was like, okay.
Well, I love it how you've explained your journey with all of this. And I guess my last question is, what's the greatest gift for your life with all of this? Like, what has this just how has this changed your life? This opening.
Wow. Wow. In so many ways. I mean, I think for one, the realization that I, this is something I can do. Um, Besides my career that I've had for 30 years, which I'm walking away from. Here's another leap of faith. I mean, but I've felt this coming for the last 2 years that this is what I need to do. It's time to let that career go. It was fine. It was great. I enjoyed it. You often think a lot of people are, searching endlessly. What's my life purpose? What am I here to do? Here, this was just thrown in my face, you know, and it took me years to understand that no, this is what you need to do. And it's those little nudges from spirit. If I could tell you in a whole nother why I'm walking away, but it's literally spirit kicked me in my butt and said, no, how many times we got to nudge you and push you? This is what you're supposed to be doing. So the greatest gift I think is realizing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm going to do it. I'm going to be able to travel around. I'm going to be able to meet different people from wherever. I mean, it's actually just unbelievable what's happening. It's like a new adventure, it really is. Um, but I think the bottom line is just being able to help people.
And stepping out in faith over fear, like that's a big change, I
Oh
think,
my
for every
God,
human
yeah.
being. Yeah.
32 years of, this is what life's supposed to be. You're supposed to have this job and career and all of a sudden now I'm like, I've caught myself thinking, like, what are you doing? You're about to leave this job that you've had forever and completely stepping into the unknown of what might happen. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't care. I don't fear it. It's like I just feel this is what I'm supposed to do. And I have to at least try. That's the biggest thing. I have to at least give this a try. But I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing. I know it.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know why, but this is just my little bit of intuition, but I do see you on stages, like I don't know if you've done any group readings yet, but I see that coming. Is that in your future for sure?
I do a lot. I do platform reading now,
Oh,
but
good.
every medium that I've sat down with, they're like, literally, you're going to be on stage. I see you not only the little auditoriums, but filling up theaters. And this has been a constant. I'm like, what are you people talking about? They're like, you're going to be bigger than John Edward. I'm like, all right, don't even go there. But that's the biggest thing. I mean, reading after reading, it's like, do you have your passport up to date? Because you're going to be traveling. You're not just going to be in the United States. I'm like, what? That has been like constant. And I'm like, what are you people talking about? I'm like, little old me,
Oh, it's gonna be exciting though, but I definitely see the stage, so that's cool.
Well, thank you
and,
for that validation.
and I see it in the future too, so it's something that you do for a while, so that's interesting.
Oh yeah. Yep. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, well, cool. Well, I'm glad that I could be a little part of it, and kind of hear more about your journey. But thank you for talking with me today. I've loved it.
No, I appreciate this very much. And hopefully I was stayed on track and didn't babble and go off on too many tangents and made sense because,
Oh no, you did. It was great fun, and I just want to remind everyone to find your links, Michael Christopher's links below, and to also pre-order my book and look at the writing workshops because I love connecting with people who are on a spiritual path. That would be great fun for me. So may you be blessed.